Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real. I'm your host, Bob Gallagher. I'm joined in studio today by our co-host, Erin Thomason. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we've invited Paul Brouillette from, did I say that right? Brouillette or is it Brouillette?
Either way.
Either way?
Yeah, fine. Thanks, Bob.
And you're with Lair Realty in Chelmsford, correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
So we asked you on to kind of talk about the real estate market and what's going on out there right now. And, before we got started today, you were mentioning, the markets are shifting a little bit. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Well, I'll give you sort of a big picture,
Sure.
Thumbnail sketch. If we look back to 2011, when the recession sort of tailed off and the market started to uptick, we have been in about a 6 or 7 year incline in the market. The market's been really good to us, real estate professionals, especially over the last few years. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And so consequently, for those of us who maybe went through a really rough sledding ride during 06 to 2011, over the last few years, the market's been very, very favorable. It's been strong. It's steady. The economy, particularly in the last year, has really been favorable. And so consequently, it's been a lot more fun to work in the real estate business over the last few years.
Yes.
Given the fact that when people list homes, they're not that difficult to sell, which is a plus. And sellers are happy because their values have been going up. Buyers have been relatively happy the last couple of years because rates have been favorable. And even though they were up on the fives maybe a year ago, or maybe the fours, rates right now for a 30-year fixed rate can get into still in the threes, which is really amazing, especially for people like me who are a little bit older who remember when they were 18%, which we won't get into ancient history here. But the bottom line is that market's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
My real estate coach and mentor, Mike Ferry, who trains and teaches real estate agents nationally, has indicated to us that because real estate's cyclical, typically there's a 5-year to 7-year cycle, and we're kind of tailing off at the probably the latter part of that cycle based upon what's happening nationally, and we're probably going to see that the real estate activity will probably curtail and level off a little bit. Possibly over the next year or two, things may not necessarily be as robust and strong market-wise. That's at least the information that I have from hearing from agents on the West Coast and the South and various parts and pockets of the country. So that's a thumbnail sketch on generally what's happening. If we look specifically at today's market, what seems to be going on is that for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years, I've noticed in my tiny snapshot of the business world is that we've actually had several properties that have fallen short with appraisals recently. And that may have only happened once or twice in the last couple of years. So the fact that that's happened 3 times in the last month with our business, it just raises the question that, okay, so some appraisers are becoming a little bit more conservative. Maybe the optimism of sellers and real estate brokers trying to get the really high-end prices for their clients is maybe a little bit more optimistic than what conservative appraisers are seeing in the marketplace. So when I say that I'm noticing a shift, it's twofold. One of which is that the raising prices is probably going to level off, which should be good for buyers.
Yeah. And it kind of has to level off.
Exactly. They can't go up forever. We noticed that in 2006. It's not normal for the economic cycle.
Right.
But still, we're in a very, very moderate and strong real estate market, which is still good for buyers and sellers, at least from my point of view.
Right. Nobody's talking about a downturn or anything like that. It's just a slower increase.
Not in Massachusetts. I have friends out in California, Southern California, that have experienced 30-40% drop off in business over the last 6 months or so. But
their prices probably have a lot to do with that too, right?
Their prices are a lot higher. That is true.
Yeah. Like obscenely high.
Yes.
I have a friend that lives in LA on Venice Beach, and he's renting for like $3,800 a month, and it's not like on the beach or anything. And it's, I think he said 800 square feet, 1 bedroom. And I said, why don't you just buy it? Why would you spend that much money? And he said, if you think the rent is bad, the value of the house is $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who can buy that? You're basically, you have to rent. Otherwise, you're paying $8,000 a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So we should count our blessings, I think is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
Paul?
exactly. So prices out here don't seem so bad by comparison.
Right. In Massachusetts, you can actually have a very, very nice home if you can get into the $400,000 to $500,000 price range. And even for people starting out, sometimes you can find a nice condominium or a multifamily home to get started. And if you do get into a multifamily home, which lots of first-time buyers do today, with your FHA programs and some first-time buyer programs that you have, people can really enable themselves to be in a position to live in a three-family home, for example, for in the range of $1,000 per month, collect 2 rents, and really get started in a very affordable lifestyle with ownership and learning the benefits of managing tenancies, and that's a way that some people start out today, but at least it gives people an option to get started in ownership.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of people do that. They start out by buying a 3-family and then a 2-family, and then eventually they have enough income from their job in those properties to qualify for the single family.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a good way to go about it.
No question about it. Yeah.
Takes a little longer, but in the long run, you build a lot more wealth.
Yeah.
Going back to your, you mentioned the appraised values coming in low on a few deals. Were those, did they overbid or did they bid up beyond the listing price, or can you even discuss that?
Yeah, I can discuss it. There were a couple of situations. In one situation, we had 2 condominiums in the same development, and it's a really cute little development, happens to be located in Lowell, and we had 2 different owners, both of whom, because of the history of that development, both of whom their appraisals came in the range of anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 below what we had sold the properties for. And these are really first-time buyer situations where the sale price was in the $189,000 range.
Oh, wow.
Appraisal came in $10,000 low. Another one was a 1-bedroom unit that they put a wall in, and the appraiser, because they could not verify that there was a building permit historically for that wall, claimed that it was a 1-bedroom, and that appraisal came in at about $12,000 light. In both cases, it put tremendous stress on the seller. The first deal fell apart. The second deal was able to be salvaged, but the seller had to come down about $20,000, which was over 10% of the aggregate value of the property because of the appraisal. So that put tremendous stress on the transactions, on the sellers, and it caused situations that that we just simply had to deal with. In another situation, we had a multifamily property in Lowell, and matter of fact, we're just trying to navigate that right now. The property there was listed at $489,900. We had a buyer that came in and paid close to asking price, and the appraisal came in on an FHA appraisal at $10,000 below the agreed upon price. Now, as the president of the company here, that oftentimes buyers ask for closing cost credits. In this deal, the buyer was asking for $7,000 back towards closing costs. So once the $10,000 came in, the price came in $10,000 light, it put stress on the deal. So what we're trying to do is see if the buyer can afford to waive the closing cost credit, but then there's still a $3,000 differential to make up. We've been going back and forth to see if we can make up that difference on an FHA deal.
Right.
The challenges in that situation were exaggerated because of the fact, or they were increased, you might say, because the home inspection revealed that there was knob and tube wiring in the property. So the seller has to rewire the property, which is going to cost $18,000. Some of the FHA requirements on that sale required that the seller had to take care of about 10 or 11 smaller items with the sale. So the seller's getting hit with a $20,000 surprise.
Right.
The buyer got hit with a $10,000 surprise. And so in order to manage to keep that deal together, has really been challenging.
Right.
And that's, one of the fun aspects of being in real estate actually is being a professional negotiator, finding out what does one side need, what does the other side need, how can we make this work, and how can we make it a win-win situation, which of course we know that you do at Ross Mortgage every time you have a loan. Because whenever you put a loan out for a client, there are always pluses and minuses in terms of their background and their financing, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the fun things about being in sales or in business, I find, is just learning the skills of what's going to make everybody happy.
Right. Yeah.
Would you agree that that's something that you have to deal with on a minute-to-minute basis?
Yeah, absolutely.
As well, Bob?
Yeah. You have to be creative.
Definitely. Think out of the box. And try and figure out how can we pull some kind of a solution out of the universe here to make everybody happy and move forward with the transaction.
And I would say 99% of the time we find a way to get it done. It's just a very, very small minority of deals that they sometimes just don't have a solution. But most of the time they do.
Isn't it satisfying when you know that you've actually put an impossible deal together to satisfy several parties?
Yeah. It's not easy, but like you were saying, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it does. And I think the general public, they look at the work that we do, and oftentimes they see it as, okay, so you're in mortgages or you're in real estate, and so you have to bring two parties together. Whereas the reality of it is, any transaction that you do or that we do, there are always about a dozen different players in it.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the lender, you've got the appraiser, you've got the underwriter, and you've got the person who has to sign it off in underwriting.
Right.
You have, in the real estate side, two brokers. There are two attorneys. You've got a buyer and a seller in a transaction. And then oftentimes you have the home inspection, which is a home inspector brings in that dimension.
Right.
So really what you have to do is you have to take that whole synthesis and bring a dozen people together, and everybody's going to be on the same page. Otherwise, the transaction's not going to survive.
Right.
And, of course, with the nuances of people's ability to get financing and the nuances of affordability and prices changing and rates changing, I guess that's the fun part of what we do.
That's right. But that's also what you just described there is also why it's so important, especially for first-time buyers, to work with real estate professionals. It's more important that you find somebody that's really good at their job. It's not just, your best friend's cousin's nephew just got into real estate and wants to represent you. That's not usually the right way to go. You need somebody that's going to be professional and help you get the deal done.
Absolutely. I just had that conversation with somebody, as a matter of fact, a prospective client in the past week, Bob, where I had someone who hasn't sold her home yet, wanted to look at a home that was listed for in the mid-600,000s that we have in Chelmsford. It's a beautiful property. It's an estate-owned property. And she has somebody that she knows who might help her sell her home, isn't pre-approved yet, and wanted to go look at this property. And so my conversation revolved around what we just discussed, which was, well, really, you shouldn't be looking for property so much so. Is what your search really should entail right now is finding the right professional to work with who can help represent you in the sale, who can help put you in the right direction in terms of your financing, and who can help you to buy whatever you want to buy, representing you versus you walking into either an open house or going to look at a property with the listing agent, which in some cases is going to compromise your ability to purchase that property at a price that's favorable to you.
Right.
So really what you should be looking for is, who should I work with? Who's the right lender?
Right.
Who's the right agent? And that's really where first-time buyers should be heading.
Right.
I agree
with that, Erin?
Yep, for sure. And so you say, you're the right agent and Ross is the right lender, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because when that happens, what we know is that people have a lot less headaches, a lot less hassles, and you know what they say, the distance between 2 points is shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if you work with people that have lots of experience, it makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It makes for an easier transaction.
No question.
And dare I say, even a little fun.
A little bit of fun. You dare say it. We have fun on every transaction.
Yes, we
Sometimes
do.
it's after we hang up the phone, but
but fun is still had, right?
Exactly right.
So why don't we talk quickly about inventory? Where are you seeing inventory going right now?
Inventory is still hard to get in terms of agents finding nice quality homes that are going to be priced right.
Right.
The summertime, we found that every time a decent house came on the market, when we listed it and we priced them conservatively or with slightly above what they're worth, they fly off the market. And we've seen that happen. As we move into the fall market, I think inventories are increasing slightly. I think there's a certain, typical this time of year. It's a little bit of a drop-off in activity. Typically in the spring and the summertime, it's a very robust market. And it still is a strong market for properties that are priced right.
Yeah.
But inventories are probably increasing right now slightly over what they have been over the last 6 months.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because inventory has been so short in the last few years. It's nice to see a few more houses to look at.
It makes it easier for buyers.
Yes.
They don't feel as though when they see a home that they have to automatically bid $20,000 over asking
Right.
price, waive the home inspection contingency,
And close in 3 days.
and waive the appraisal. In which case, now they're exposing the deposit. So it
Right.
just takes some of that tremendous pressure off the clients.
Right. Supply and demand are more in balance.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's and I think that's good for everybody.
No question.
Because even people that are selling, they have to buy another house too. So
Right.
if you end up doing really well because it's such a seller's market, well, you're going to be a buyer the day after
Exactly.
anyway. So
Yep.
yeah, I think balance is what we need.
Right.
Why don't we talk about? A lot of people think you have to sell in the spring. You have to wait till the spring. Now that we're going into the fall and the winter, what are the benefits of selling during those seasons as opposed to the spring market?
That's a terrific question. One of the questions that we ask clients who say, I'm going to wait until the spring market, is we ask them, well, when do most homes sell? And the obvious answer is most homes sell during the spring market. So then the next question is, well, when do you think most property actually comes on the market? Once again, spring market, because most families that are selling a home will sell anywhere from January 2nd, which is the beginning of the spring market, until May or June when children get out of school, because then what they can do is they can get the sale under their belt and then be able to buy during the summertime and be relocated, particularly when they're trying to accommodate a school timetable for one or more children. And so because there's more inventory in the spring, the next question that we ask clients is, well, if you're looking to sell your home for top dollar, you really want to maximize your sale price. Don't you think it might be worth looking at the possibility that there's typically less inventory in the fall? And so if there is less inventory in the fall, wouldn't that mean that there's less competition?
Yeah.
Obvious answer is yes. So if there's less competition in the fall than there would be in the spring, A, it enables you to sell the home faster. B, it enables you to oftentimes sell the home for a higher price and better terms. And C, because of that, it gives you a leveraged benefit of getting your home sold before the holidays or even during the holidays.
Right.
Because you have fewer people that are competing as far as your listing being out there on the market.
Right. So you get more attention.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, believe it or not, we're running out of time. I want to give out your contact info for anybody that's looking to buy or sell. It's Paul Brouillette. Thanks again for joining us. I'm going to give out your numbers. So
Sure.
If people are looking to call you during business hours, so 9 to 5, office is the best number?
That's the best number.
Right. And that's 978-256-3306. Again, it's 978-256-3306. If you're looking to get Paul after hours, you can try him on his cell at 978-852-3301.
Excuse me, 3001.
3000. Oh, I wrote it wrong. 3001. So 978-852-3001.
Perfect.
Excellent. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after these messages.
Thanks, Bob.